I just want to bring in briefly one of the MPs who's out here. A couple have made it out here in the past hour or so. Keith Pitt, the Nationals MP. Keith, this is quite an extraordinary security breach. When you look up there, you see those banners flying next to the Australian coat of arms, 4 protesters scaling the parliament. What's your reaction? How does that make you feel?
Well, firstly, we've seen this before, and there was a significant security upgrade, and clearly that's being breached. These things are not tea towels flapping around, it's organised. Secondly, none of this solves anything in the Middle East, but it certainly creates issues here at home in Australia. And as someone in public life, our job is to look after the Australian people, act in their interests, and in particular, protect those who are being affected. And what's happening to the Jewish people here is, to be honest, just disgraceful. Never again. This should never be seen again.
On the security aspect, the point's been made. We just had the midwinter ball inside Parliament last night. The Prime Minister, the opposition leader, everybody all in the same room. Does it make you feel less safe knowing that 4 people can somehow make it all the way to the top of the Parliament?
Well, I'm sure the presiding officers will investigate and find out exactly what's happened. But for the protesters, I support an individual's right to a democratic protest, but I don't support them putting themselves at a point of risk, putting others at risk, particularly our emergency services. And this is Australia's Parliament House. To prevent the access to that house for the Australian public, well, that is a disgrace. They do not have the right to do that, and I hope they get the book thrown at them.
How should the Prime Minister respond to this?
Well, for those of us in public life, we do have to be cautious. I'm concerned about social cohesion. We have to be exceptionally cautious in our commentary, and certainly we want to see the heat out of this debate, not the escalation we're seeing recently. I mean, we've just seen the Australian War Memorial vandalised by people just like this. It is appalling. They do not have the right to do that.
Keith Pitt, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks.
Keith Pitt, Nationals MP, one of a number of MPs, members of Parliament, Kieran, who have made it out to the forecourt of Parliament House here. You can see these 4 protesters that have now retrieved 2 of the 3 banners they'd held next to the coat of arms. They're now gathering. I think one of them looked like they were taking some photos up there a moment ago. The police contingent remains here, Kieran. It's a significant day in Parliament, being the last day before the midwinter break. We know there's been politically a lot of pressure on the Labor MP, Fatima Payman, questions about whether she would quit the party even as soon as today, having crossed the floor to support a Greens motion calling for the recognition of Palestine. So we wait to see how these protesters are going to get down, with calls growing now for an inquiry, Kieran, to try and figure out how they got up there in the first place and how this quite extraordinary security breach on the front of Parliament House has occurred.